Hello everyone, Forex here. In this tutorial we are going to be making a campaign. This is a requested video tutorial. We're probably going to be here for a while because the campaign creating process can be quite long. Of course, making a mission itself takes more time. On the other hand, making a campaign out of several missions isn't a matter of 5 minutes. Please note that I'll be explaining a single player campaign only and cannot really ensure that this process will work in multiplayer environment, which it probably won't. So I'll go through the entire process, but I will also try to segment the video into several parts so that if you are already in the middle of making the campaign, you can easily skip to the correct part, and if you are making your first campaign and you need to rest, you can simply stop at one of these moments in the video. Individual chapters will be in the video description below, and we can start right now with the first part. Okay, we'll start at the very beginning. At this point we have absolutely nothing at all and just want to make a campaign about something. So the first part of preparations usually happens outside of the mission editor, and the only thing we need is a pencil and a paper. Designing the main story, collecting ideas and coming up with something good enough is the most important part of making anything. Especially with campaigns that take lots of your time, you really need to make sure that you invest your resources to something that's actually worth it and you are committed to it. You should at least chart out the basic storyline, choose main characters and their actions, and pick the location of your story. If you don't plan ahead, you can find yourself lost in your own story once you make your first few missions, and it's always better to know what you are doing and what you are trying to achieve, even if you may need to adjust some details along the way. Of course, the more detailed your story becomes, the less trouble you will have once you actually start making missions in the editor, as you will already know what exactly needs to be done. It's also a good idea to open the mission editor, walk around the map and try to pick an approximate place for your missions, and try to connect that place to the story. For example, if you plan to make a story about an infantry unit lost behind enemy lines, you can't jump across the island with each new mission. Remember the basic rules of story writing. Make sure you know what you want to say with your story. Give your characters some opinions, personalities, goals and perspectives. Try to keep the story fluent and interesting at the same time, and give it a beginning and an ending. If you stick to these basic rules, you will have a bigger chance of making a more interesting story for the player, which is the ultimate goal of the major part of custom campaigns. You want the player to remember your work, to become hooked to the story and immerse themselves, so do not underestimate this preparation phase. Take your time and try to come up with something that the player will enjoy. Alright, so we have an idea about the story, we know what we want to make, now the last step is to make it. That's of course a very general approach to the situation. We are going to divide it into more parts, of course. Now, once you know what you want to do, it's time to open the mission editor and start making missions. You should know this process very well, and you want to basically make normal individual missions and just keep the overall story in mind. I can't really say much about this part of campaign creation. It's very individual, because, well, you are making whatever you want by any possible means. This part also takes the most of your time, obviously. If you plan to make a campaign consisting of 15 missions, you are going to have to sit down and make 15 individual missions with everything that's needed first. I'm not going to go into great detail on this part, just because it's nothing different than making normal missions. Of course, you will have to keep some limitations in mind, like keeping a constant identity for main characters, and you will for sure use the Description.ext for setting up identities for the main characters, and maybe commands like setName or setFace for characters that still need some identity, but not all of it. So the only thing needed is to make missions. There is nothing special needed to be done, no extra steps, just make missions and keep saving them just like all other missions. You don't need to export them to the single player scenarios, just have them in the editor and prepare all of them. I recommend you to make all the missions first and then pack them into a campaign. It's much easier than making a couple of missions, pack them, then open the campaign again and add a few more, pack again. That's really not what you want to do. You could also make a few testing missions and try to pack them, just so that you know how to actually complete the campaign once you are done with the proper missions. That's also a possibility. This should take you most of the editing time. If making a concept of a campaign takes about 5 days, making individual missions can take several weeks or months, depending on the number of people available for editing, details and complexity of the work, and the skill of person or people creating the missions. You have many tutorials about mission creating right here. There are many other channels on YouTube, and of course you can also search at different Arma related sites, forums and other places. There are many places that can help you with mission creating, so for this tutorial I will move to the next point. Once all missions are ready and you have completed all of them, including all cutscenes and such, you can move out of the editor. We'll actually complete and finish the campaign outside the game itself. First, we need to prepare the campaign folders. Alright, go to the folder where you keep your editor missions. For most users, the path will be Documents Arma 3 Missions or Documents Arma 3 Other Profiles, your profile name Missions. Here you can create a new folder with a name of your campaign. It doesn't need to be the official name, only something close to it. I want to make a campaign named First Test, so my folder will be named First Test, one word. Open the newly created folder and make two subfolders, DTA.ext and Missions. This will be the place for your entire campaign. This is your workplace now. While you are still in the main campaign folder, create the following files. Description.ext, this will be the core part of your entire campaign. Optional file is stringtable.csv or stringtable.xml, in case you want to offer the subtitles in different languages. I haven't talked about the string table yet and probably won't in the near future, but you can find plenty of other materials on the internet. It makes it possible for texts to appear in different languages, which can be a sign of very well done work in some cases. Overview.paa will be the campaign's overview image, showing in the menu and giving the player a first opportunity to judge your work before he can even see it. It should be a good one. Ideal resolution is 1024 x 512. The game also allows different image size than that, but you should at least stick to the same image format and keep the proportions the same, otherwise the game may stretch the image, omit some of its parts, or not show it at all. Alright, now you can open the subfolder missions. This is where all your missions should be, so copy them here. Copy the entire folders with all scripts and files inside in them. It doesn't matter in which order, just make sure that all of them are here. Now is the time to make final changes in the missions, make sure that they work properly and they are ready to be exported. Now you should have a couple of folders here named missionname.islandname. You can leave the missions folder right now. The subfolder DTA.ext can be used but doesn't have to if you don't want to. This is a place where you can put external files that you need to keep throughout the entire campaign, like music, sound effects or images. You have two options here. You can use this folder to store some files and change your missions slightly so that they point to this folder, or you can just leave it empty since you have all the needed stuff in your missions already. Alright, so we have all missions in place, we have all folders and files ready. It's time to set up the campaign Description.ext. A word of warning before we begin: almost all the work that we will do now will be done here, and it's extremely important to do this well. You may already know that unlike in scripts, you cannot have errors in Description.ext. Any error will crash a game or cause totally unexpected and significant errors, so make sure to follow the steps carefully, and when you are trying your code later in the game, be prepared for a few crashes here and there before you get it working. Also, this is not one of those tutorials where you just copy the code I provide you and it instantly works just fine. You will have to modify the code a little bit. I will do my best to show you how it works and how to change things so that they work, but please pay attention if you want to avoid problems in the future. Alright, we'll be making a rather simple campaign. I will not be creating a 3-phase complex campaign like the official one, and I really hope that whatever you have planned to make, this will be enough for you. We are not limiting, however, the campaign in any way. So first of all, I will declare some less important classes that you can use but don't have to. We are now working with global settings of the entire campaign, and what is written over here can be accessed from any mission within. So I want to have some music, sound effects and some identities. Once these are implemented in the description file, I can work with them in the missions themselves. It's a bit tricky because you can't test it directly in the editor itself, as the editor doesn't load the entire campaign, but once saved and properly packed into one file, it will work fine because the game will read the files in a slightly different way. So I will define a few identities and one music file just to show you how the code looks like. And of course, we are also going to use the .ext folder to save the music there. Note that when I'm defining a path to the file, I write the full path including the campaigns folder where the campaign will be saved in the end, the full name of the campaign folder that will be converted into a PBO file, and the .ext folder as well. This is a slight change in comparison to normal mission. The advantage of these classes lies mainly in reusability throughout the campaign. If you want to finish a mission with the same sound effect, you can define it here only once and then call it from every mission just with one command, instead of having to copy the code and the sound itself to every mission. For identities, it's mainly for comfort, because once you define an identity here, you can use it in all the missions without the need to copy the code into the description file of every individual mission. The music and sound classes you already know well from the music tutorial. If you haven't seen that, I recommend watching it right now. It explains how to achieve having custom sounds in the missions, so you won't deal with that right now. I already have a prepared sound effect that I'll be using. And let me also prepare some identities. I'll show you how to make one, and then, after we are done, I'll show you how to actually apply an identity to an object. So first we get to choose a name. This can be anything within the quotes, then a face. You have a basic selection of faces. I'll leave the list in the link to Pastebin description down below the video, and also a speaker. As you know, Arma 3 has a range of suitable voices that you can also assign to people. As you can see, I have 4 identities created here, so in the story I can have 4 main characters that can all benefit from having the same name, the same face and voice throughout the campaign, and in every mission I just need to assign the identity to an object. That is done by a command setIdentity. Of course, the best place to write that command is init.sqf, and the command is really simple: the editor object setIdentity, identity class name that you defined. So if I have an identity with the class name soldier2, I can write soldier setIdentity soldier2. At that moment, the object with the name soldier will get the face, voice and name from the identity named soldier2. Okay, let's leave that for now. I already have videos about identities and music on the channel, and this is pretty much the same thing, so let's move to the main part. We'll be creating a campaign class. I recommend you to copy the code provided in the video description. You can find a Pastebin link there, so copy the contents and let me explain what is happening here. The first few lines set the most general information about the campaign. We tell the game what is the campaign name, who is the author, and how it's supposed to be displayed in the campaign selection menu. Please note that the image that will be displayed in the menu, the path to the image, is a bit different than in missions. We have to define the path from the game folder, and from there the game needs to go to the folder Campaigns, where our campaign will be located in the end, then to our campaign file, so replace this part with the name of your campaign folder, and inside that the game should find our image. In this case it is overview.jpg or overview.paa that we have prepared already. Next we have to define some default mission template so that the game knows what a mission should be like. We will define this empty mission so that the game knows that a mission can have 6 different endings, another extra ending that is the lost end, and that in single player you don't have any extra lives, and after dying you can load a previous position or reload the entire mission. This is a template that all missions in the campaign will have. All of them will have a possibility to have 6 endings, and that way you can branch out as much as you want. Next we have to make some parts of a campaign. In this example we'll only have one part. You can still have as many missions in one part as you want. You can still have as many branches and different endings as you want. It will just all be packed in one single line, and it actually makes it much easier for us to make this description file. So the part is named mission. It is also the only part. If you ever want to make more, you can add more parts, part 2, part 3, and so on. The first mission of this part is going to be, let's say, mission 1. This mission will be the first that will be offered to the player, and it is already a completely normal mission with intro, outro and everything. And a few lines below that we can define what a mission 1 actually is. So we want it to be a child of the default mission template that we made earlier, and if it ends with an end number 1, it will do something. The template line is the most important. Here we define which mission is the mission 1. So over here you should write the name of the folder with the mission. In my case, my first mission is in a folder miss1.vr, so I'll write that name here, and now it is called mission 1. And after mission 1 ends with an ending number 1, it will go to the second mission, mission 2. The second mission is defined by the same way. We can again define what happens after which ending and which mission is represented by this class name. It's also a good thing to define the lost situation, because that gets activated after the player dies in a mission. So to prevent any errors or unexpected situations, you can set that after the player's death or the lost ending, the very same mission is launched. That way the player has to repeat the same mission again if he loses and doesn't progress through dying. Or you can make an original campaign and make it only possible to progress through dying. That can be done as well. In this way you can define as many missions as you want. I have prepared 6 example missions for this occasion, 3 in virtual reality and 3 on Stratis. So I'll have to pay attention to the template line. The island name needs to be changed now. And we can also create 2 different branches of the story. So if the third mission ends with ending number 1, we will move to the mission 4. And if it ends with ending number 2, we can move to mission number 5. Both missions 4 and 5 will lead to the mission 6, and that way we have 2 different ways to get to the final mission, and we have just created and closed a new branch. The 6th mission is special because it is the final mission of the campaign. Once this mission ends, the campaign needs to end as well, so it's best to define another type of ending. We can do this by having an empty event after the mission ends. That way the game looks what's next in the description file, and there's the end of the campaign only, and so the game ends the entire thing. You could also define only the template, because the mission inherits the empty endings from the default mission anyway, but I think that for clarity of the code it's better to define an extra empty ending. And that is the end for the description file. We have almost everything ready. Don't forget that we have defined an extra sound effect. It is sitting in the .text folder, and I have to go to the editor and call it from the mission so that we can hear it during the play. Once done, I can just save it, move it back to the campaign folder, and it's ready. We will also assign some identities to people. That can be done in the ini.sgf file in an individual mission, and is done in the very same way as in normal mission. Alright, so at this moment we have pretty much everything we need. The description file is complete and ready. All missions are also complete. We have the pictures in place and the whole campaign is pretty much ready to go. The very last thing that we need to take care of is packing this entire thing into one single PBO file. I was actually having many problems with packing the campaign into the correct format. I ended up using Kageti's Arma Armed Assault tools. The official Arma 3 tools for packing things into PBO for some reason didn't really work. The game refused to read the files created with these tools, so I'll leave a link to download the Kageti's tools in the video description. If you manage to make campaigns with the official Arma 3 tools, well, good for you then. I had to use this to pack the campaign, so when installed and properly set up, just right click the folder and choose Create PBO. It packs the entire folder for you and you end up with one PBO file. Take this file and put it into the campaign's subfolder in the games folder. That is usually located in C, Steam, Steam Apps, Common, Arma 3. But if you installed Steam somewhere else, you'll probably have to spend some time searching for it. It may also happen that there is no folder named campaigns. In that case, you can just create a new one. Put the PBO file in there, and now you can launch Arma and test your new campaign. It will be located in the campaign's menu selection. It may happen that there's some mistake in the description file. In that case, the game should inform you about the existence of an error in the file, and you have to exit the game, rework the description file and back again. If there are no errors and no campaign, it is possible that there is a problem with the conversion into PBO file. So try to solve that by either using other packing tools or changing the settings in your current ones if there are any. Also, a mistake that the game really didn't like when I was making a campaign: if you can, do not use dashes, hyphens, extra spaces or any other punctuation for no reason in the mission names and in the campaign name. Be it a class name of the mission or the actual name of the mission folder, just don't use any special stuff that may confuse the game. As you know, the visible name of the mission can be changed anytime, and the work name for the mission is something that only you as the creator will ever see. I made missions that had dashes in them, and it took me a few days to fix all the errors that were caused by this in the description file of the campaign. So I really recommend you to name all the missions in the most simple way possible and keep the cool names for the players themselves. If the work name of the mission is M1, you are going to have much less problems than if you name it black-hawk down ? The description file really doesn't like anything that doesn't have to be there, so if you can, keep it as simple as possible with the names. For all names in the quotes, you can be as creative as you want, but outside that, keep it simple. Other than that, there shouldn't be many problems. Campaign isn't that difficult to create once you have the individual missions. Of course, these can take months to actually complete, and after that it's only a matter of few hours or days if things don't go your way. Remember that if you want to change a mission in the editor, you have to make the changes, save the mission and then copy the newly updated mission to the campaign folder before converting into a PBO file. Remember that Description.ext is quite strict when it comes to code and will not allow you many mistakes, if any at all. And remember that while you can use extra classes such as identities, sound or music in the campaign Description.ext, you also don't have to do that at all, as long as you have those things defined in the individual missions. So if you are now about to make your own campaign, I wish you good luck. A proper campaign can be a long journey for the author. It needs a lot of time and careful planning, but hopefully the amount of time will now be a bit decreased for you with this tutorial video, which is at its definitive end. So that's it for this video. I hope to see you all in the next one. Comment, like and share, and have a great day.